Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we are trying to MAVER-RICK-ROLL people. That's right, we are playing a Maverick deck, which is code for basically a deck that runs like Noble Hierarchs, Mother of Runes, and then has a Green Sun Zenith as the main sort of package it's doing. Some of them lean more in towards Stoneforge Mystics, some more into Knight of the Reliquary. There's quite a wide variety of cards contained in what is a Maverick deck, but essentially it's like a sort of mitty little guys that have all these useful abilities that slowly come together as a whole. But what we're doing that's a little bit different is playing Witherbloom Apprentice. Now, Witherbloom Apprentice says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now, the reason we're playing this is it's a green creature, so you can go and find it with Green Sun Zenith. But it also is an infinite combo with Chain of Smog. You target yourself with Chain of Smog, and then you drain your opponent's life for 1. And then Chain of Smog asks if you want to copy it. So you say yes, and you hit yourself again with it. And then you drain them for 1, and then you copy it, and so on and so forth, until you take their entire life total out. Now this is something that you don't really see in Maverick decks, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a way that we can get people. And because we have effectively 6 copies of it with the Green Sun Zenith, it means that we can just fetch this. We're not dedicated to comboing, but if we have a Chain of Smog in our opening hand or something like this, then we can map our game plan around putting the Witherbloom Apprentice into play and just going to town with it that way. What we can also do is have Mother of Runes to protect it, which I think will be quite potent, because the main way people will interact with that combo is by killing our creature. However, our deck requires a lot of answers to creatures, because that's what we're trying to do, is just get some good creatures on the board and sort of take over the game that way. So if they start pointing all their removal spells at our birds and our mother and our Stoneforge and our Thalia or whatever, they're eventually going to run out of removal, which will mean our Witherbloom Apprentice is going to be pretty good. That's the plan anyway. And you know me, if I can try and jam a combo into something, you'll be damn sure that I'll do it. Not a huge amount to say really about the rest of the deck. We haven't got much in the way of a package for the Knight of the Reliquary, because we've only got 1 in this particular build. So I was basically had a choice of playing Stoneforge Mystic or Knight of the Reliquary in this deck. And so I've gone for a 3-1 split because you can tutor for the Knight. So the Knight can really only find Horizon Canopy, Caracas and more Wastelands. There's nothing really wild going on there. Some of our other silver bullets, Outland Liberator. This one is like a disenchant, and when you flip it, it disenchants on attacks. That's pretty strong. Collector Roof, if we want to stop a load of like artifact decks. There's plenty of stuff that this is good against, whether it be Storm or 8 cast. It's going to find a lot of use, and I definitely think it's worth having main deck. We only have 2 Thalias as well, because we needed to find some slots to play the combo. So this might be not enough, and it might end up being a bit poor. But lately, in my opinion, Thalia has definitely gone down in power level compared to how it was like a year or so ago. It just seems less of a decent sort of threat now. Like, a lot of decks can ignore it, and the body isn't that impressive compared to some of the things other people are doing, namely things like endurance. And in a world where we've got a lot of like big splashy plays that just go over the top of it, it doesn't seem that effective in my opinion. But we still got a couple of copies, and I would like to have more if I could fit them in, but alas we can't. Our mana dorks, we have a split between Birds of Paradise and Noble Hierarch, because we would like to be able to cast some black spells here, and also some from the sideboard that we'll talk about in a minute. So Birds of Paradise. We also have a Ramanap Excavator, which is a card that I really enjoy, because this lets us replay Wasteland, and I love wastelanding people. Knight of the Reliquary is another Green Sun Zenith target. Leovold, we have 1 tropical island to cast this, to cast the blue pit, but we also have these 4 dorks that all cast it. But mainly we're just going to get a Green Sun Zenith to get this. Now this is quite a potent card. So it shuts down opposing brainstorms and such like. It's got similar text to, it does a similar sort of thing to Narset. But also, whenever you or a opponent you control becomes a target spell ability, you get a free card out of it. So it means that if they try and kill any of your guys, you're going to sort of replace it and 2-for-1 them. Grist is a pretty standard one. I've not seen this art before. It's pretty funky. But this is a pretty standard thing for Green Sun Zenith decks, because being able to tutor for a Planeswalker is pretty good value. The equipment suite we've gone for here is one Cauldron, because it's just the big boy that does all the work. And then the Jitte, if we need to sort of pick off little creatures, because we are a creature deck. We get so many bodies to stick a Jitte on and build up counters on. I think it's probably the right choice here. But this could equally be Sword of Fire and Ice, or even a Batterskull perhaps, because we have a little bit of ramp, so we might be able to get to the Batterskull here. But we're going to go with Jitte, tried and true. And we have 3 Endurance because we're a green deck, and Endurance is just very good. Removal Sweep, 4 Swords Plowshares, Prismatic Ending, pretty standard affair really. Nothing much more to say about this. 1 Dryad Arbor, I guess, might be kind of interesting. And we have no basic swamp in the deck. We have basic forest and basic plains, and that's it. Because we're not super heavy on the swamp, really. So, yeah, that's about that. So, cyber-wise, Deafening Silence. Storm decks, pretty obvious. Opposition Agents, a lot of combo-y decks. This tends to be pretty good against. And we can bring it in for, when our removal's bad, the Opposition Agent's probably going to be good. And there's also things like the Depths decks that we can take out with this. Choke, a lot of island decks around. Let's smash them up a bit. A couple of Force of Vigors to complement our Collector Roof and Outland Liberator for blowing things up. Plague Engineers, Elves, Goblins, etc, etc. Sometimes we might need it to name Hamster, which might come up, but we'll see how we get on. And I've got 3 Ley Lines. Now, we have the 3 Endurances here. I could have put another Endurance here, but I wanted a turn 0 thing that can't be thought seized away, hence the Ley Lines. There's some other tools I would have liked here, like a Thoughtseize or something like that. But this is what we've gone with. I've never really played Maverick before. I played against it a lot because I've been playing for so long, and back once upon a time, Maverick was sort of the go-to like little creature deck in Europe mainly. So it was very popular over here. And I remember getting smashed out of a GP once when I was playing Dredge, and somebody was Mavericking me with all the Graveyard hate in the world. But anyway, so I've not really played this deck, but it looks relatively straightforward, and it's got a nice little bit of spice in to keep me happy. So nothing much more to say. Let's just jump into a league and see how we get on. But before we do that, if you could just take a little scroll down and hit that subscribe button, that really helped me out. It doesn't cost you a single penny, but it really helps me. All right. Thank you very much, and let's just jump into a league. So this is our opening hand. Ideally, I would quite like to have some sort of ramp effect here. And we have a Dryad Arbor in our hand, which we don't want. We have a Cauldron in our hand, which we don't want. So I don't think we can keep this. We really need to find a Mana Dork or a Green Sun Zenith as a general rule. So we're going to mulligan this one. This hand doesn't feel much better either. Like, we don't have any way of getting on the board. So I think we have to mulligan again. This is by far the best hand we've had so far, but there's obviously a little bit of tension going on in it. So we'll keep this. We can get rid of the Witherbloom, and we can get rid of a Stoneforge Mystic. So I think what we do here is we'll play the Windswept Heath out, and we have 2 choices here. We can either play a Mother of Runes, or we can Green Sun Zenith here. Now, if we want to play the Mother of Runes out here, we'd probably just go and get a Plains. Like green, that means every other land in our deck, apart from Caracas, I think. And the Wastelands will be able to cast a Green Sun Zenith, and we can't get Wastelanded off of it. But if we don't draw another land, we're in trouble. So the other thing we can do here is get a Savannah and cast a Green Sun Zenith and get ourselves a Dryad Arbor, so we can definitely cast Stoneforge next turn. But then it won't be protected by a Mother of Runes. But I think we have to... Oh, this is a really, really difficult decision here. I think because we're behind, we just have to play to the... We have to just do the Savannah play, I think. Like, the rest of our hand does enough to win the game, I think. If we can stick it, perhaps. Like, this is quite a potent thing here. So let's just get out onto the board here. They're less likely to wasteland us if we're presenting 2 mana sources already, because they don't want to fall behind, because they wasteland us and we've still got a mana on board. So we make a 2-drop and they have none. So I think this dissuades them from wastelanding if they have a wasteland in their deck or hand. Alright, opponents cast played a Misty Rainforest. They've cracked it. A basic island and a ponder. So this is making me think it's some sort of like blue zenithy Yorion, not Yorion, Uro type pile. But again, I don't have a lot of information. I just have a Misty Rainforest and a ponder. It could be a Lurin, it could be all sorts of things. Alright, so we didn't get Wastelanded, which is good news. And now we've drawn a Verdant Catacombs, which is also good news. So I think this turn we play the Stoneforge. We can reveal that we have black mana here. Like, we're already exposed to Wasteland. I think that's okay for us. Okay. So I'm going to play... Now, the issue with getting this out is if they do Wasteland us, they can take us off white. But we're going to play the Stoneforge around Days. So I could have got Savannah here and maybe played the Mother of Runes, but if I'm playing around Days with one card, because I'm so far behind, I have to play around Days, I think, with both cards here. So if we get the Cauldron here, this will force action or just give us a win. Could have attacked with Dryad Arbor there as well. I don't think the 1 damage from the Dryad Arbor is as important as holding up the potential for something with the green mana. Quite what that could be for our opponent remains to be seen, actually. So maybe we should get the 1 damage in. Like, this doesn't impact our clock getting the 1 damage in, because this is our clock. Although maybe it could impact our clock if they're taken low enough. Yeah, I'm going to go with it and say that it was a mistake not to attack with Dryad Arbor. Yep, sure. Unholy Heat. Okay, this makes it look a bit more like some sort of Delvery style deck. You didn't really see Unholy Heat many other places, to be honest. Part of the Mother of Runes. We don't want to play into the Days. I think we just attack like we should have done last turn. Alright, we can still keep playing around Days, so we might as well. If we have got Savannah last turn and played the Mother of Runes, and they didn't have a Days, then maybe this would have got the Unholy Heat instead. But if they had a Days, then we just have 0 resources to work with. So I think we're best off just trying to play around the Days as much as we can. Murktide Region. Okay, so this just looks like Delver to me. And they get 2 mana 6/6 flyers. And we don't get anything like that. So, okay. So showing us a little bit more information there. So we have a prismatic ending that we can fire off on the Delver. And our creatures aren't going to die anymore. So this is quite a good draw. This will force removal. And I think we just have to end this now. So some builds of Maverick have Scrib Ranger, which is very potent in situations like this because it can block these indefinitely. So it's got protection from blue. And then it can also untap creatures and bounce forests to give you a sudden jump in mana and so on, or keep a Dryad Arbor indefinitely blocking. So I think we have to block with Birds of Paradise and Shields up here. Like, this does give them the opportunity of killing our Mother of Runes, which is unfortunate. But I think we're so far behind that we have to make these sort of plays. But if we can keep this at bay for a while... Okay. I'm surprised they didn't cast that beforehand. But maybe if they revealed a Lightning Bolt or something, it might change the way I block, and they might not be able to get the naked Mother of Runes here. Feels like this is going to be a very difficult one for us to win, but not impossible. Wasteland. Okay, so we can lose our white source here is what I assume we're losing, which means you have to use our Birds of Paradise if you want white mana. Sure, so we're still representing the combo potentially soon, but it's going to be tricky. If we draw a mana source here, we can get in with the Mother of Runes and kill the Dragon's Rage Channeler and let them have 1 hit with the Murktide, which might be okay. But the Mother of Runes will trade with the Channeler if I do that, so that's probably less where we want to be. Although now the Channeler is what? Creature, sorcery, artifact, land, so we can't even do that now. Like, we'd have to trade the whole Mother of Runes to do that. So we are just behind in a big way. What have we got here? Noble Hierarch. I think we have to pass. So we have enough mana to combo if we draw into both the pieces, but that's going to take us 2 draw steps. And we'll be taking at least 3 a turn at the moment. So block on this. Do the same trick again. And hope that they don't have the removal. Like, they're ahead anyway, just bashing us for 3 a turn, so it doesn't really matter if they can't kill the Mother of Runes. All this does is speed up the clock. It doesn't stop them. This isn't going to let me turn the corner immediately or anything. So probably best just holding up the removal and just pecking away for 3, because it's not going to take too many turns. There's 5 turns, but minus any amount of lightning bolts they can put to our face. I guess this speeds up 2 turns if they can connect with it. Right, so Kraken polluted Delta. Mystic Sanctuary, so they get their EI back, so they can dig into removal spells. Yep, this little combo is pretty gross. It pumps this guy, but this doesn't really matter because if this hits us, we're losing that game at that point. Okay, so there's the lightning bolt on the Mother of Runes. We are, what, 7, 8, 9, 10 they're representing at the moment. So not great. You can play another channeler here. So they got a 2-turn clock right now. Okay, they got second Murktide Regent, so we're dead on our next turn. Like, we can chop block this for a turn. But, yeah. Broken card that needs to be banned is broken. Who'd have thought? Alright, let's have a look. So what does this get us? I don't think we can win this game. Like, we have to chomp here. We're not getting anywhere. I think we just concede. And then we try not to show them too much more else going on with our deck. So, Leyline of the Void is a thing that dramatically changes the texture of this matchup. The rest of these don't do very much. Knight of the Red Courier is fine. Leovold is fine. Like, Grist is something that we can leverage quite well. So a lot of what the stuff we've got going on is still pretty good here. We don't need the Outland Liberator. We don't need the Collector Roof. I do like the Ramanap Excavator as a target. I quite like the Unite the Reliquary as a target. The Thalia still seems fine. The Stoneforge Mystic is something, if it resolves, it's good. Jitte is going to be good at picking off some of their guys if we get in that sort of situation. It's making me think that what we should be looking at cutting is some of the combo. So I think we can probably just trim it down to 1 and 1. So if we draw the Chain of Smog, we Green Sun Zenith for the Witherbloom. But otherwise, we don't need to do that. That seems fine to me. Plague Engineer is a card we can bring in here. If you watch my YouTube channel, you probably see me bring the Plague Engineer in quite a few times, name human, whilst having a leyline in play. But I think our deck is going to be powerful enough that if we get the leyline or the choke in play, we probably don't need the Engineer. And we'd rather just have the removal spells to guarantee getting rid of them. Like, I guess we could possibly drop a Prismatic Ending for an Engineer, but then the worst case scenario where we don't have the ley lines and they have a bigger guy, the ending will kill it and the Plague Engineer won't. So I think this is the best way of hedging for when things don't go to plan. We did mulligan to 5 that game, but alright, what does this hand do? This hand makes a turn 1 Mother of Runes into a turn 2 Thalia. And then we have a Green Sun Zenith to get something nice with in a bit. Again, I don't want the Dryad Arbor in hand, but there it is. We do unfortunately have to play this out into Wasteland. But if we can stick these two, we can slow down the speed they can produce a Murktide at the very least. And maybe we'll be able to get there with a Green Sun. So we're looking at getting Leovold from this. The only problem with Leovold is it does die to Lightning Bolt, so maybe we get the Endurance, which is very good in the Delver matchup. Source of Plowshares, I don't hate seeing that. This is going to get us a basic, basic forest, I think, here. And then we just play out the Thalia here. They can daze this, unfortunately. They did not daze it. Alright. So if they remove this, it will take their whole turn. And next time we can play out the Dryad Arbor and the Mother of Runes. Sure, this little guy. Now I'm incentivized to try and kill this, I think. But the only problem is I don't want to waste my Source of Plowshares when I might need it for a Murktide. This is going to cost me 2 mana because of our own creature. It's also a bit awkward. This says non-creature spells, so I think we point the Source of Plowshares at this. Wait, no, we need to play our land out first to make sure we can pay for a daze. That's what happens. We cast this targeting this guy. So if they daze, we can pay, and they can't force anything. Okay. So we can crack this. Get Savannah. And we attack with our Thalia. And try for the Mother of Runes here. Now, we are exposing ourselves to end the festivities here and a daze by playing this out now. But they didn't daze the Thalia, which I think they would do if they had it. So that's why I'm playing this out now. Like, they could have drawn days for turn this turn, to be fair. But I don't... My assumption was they didn't have a day's last turn. So I think the chance of me slipping this through is quite high. If they want to force of will it, that's a nice 2-for-1 for us. They have to pay here. And if they don't, the upside of having this in play is very large. Okay, they're just getting steam vents tapped. Okay, this could be end the festivities coming our way. That would be pretty bad for us, because that would kill both of our guys. We can't cast the Green Suns because it's a Dryad Arbor, even though it looks like a regular forest. It's going to be summoning 6, so we can't actually... Okay, just a 2-mana Ponder. That's very good for us. That means our opponent cannot cast another spell this turn, another non-creature spell, sorry, this turn, unless it's a Force of Will, and they find a land off this Ponder, or they have a land in hand. So that means our Mother of Runes at least gets to be able to protect us from end the festivities, or any other sort of sweeper they may have in their deck. So you sometimes see Rough and Tumble, which is obviously going to be even harder to cast on this board state. Okay, to finish resolving their Ponder, they did not shuffle with their Ponder, which is not really what I want to see. A Caracas. We can play this out and help protect our Thalia, but I think we want to play this so we can get the Green Suns up and running as soon as possible. It does expose us to more end the festivities, because the Mother of Runes can only protect so many things. I think this is where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they can make a Murktide this turn. It won't be the biggest Murktide, but it'll certainly be bigger than the things we're doing. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay, that's fine. In an ideal world, they tap low enough here with some sort of cantrips or something so that we get to deploy this without having to worry about any counter spells. But it appears we might not be that lucky. This is also costing us more because of the Thalia. Okay, so they had the Murktide. It's a 5/5. I think we are going to lose this game. Like, little creature decks trying to beat... Ooh. This is a good one. Like, we're still going to die to the Murktide in the air. But at least it gives us a chance. This is going to cost us an additional mana because of our own Thalia. Not liking the Thalia with all these spells in my deck. They can't counter this because they don't have any mana up. So they're not going to have any more mana for a little bit. But they are going to have 5 power in the air that we can't do anything about. So we need to work out how to beat this Murktide. If I'd have had a Scrib Ranger instead of a Thalia, that'd be nice. Although the Thalia has helped us resolve some stuff, I think. So do we have we don't have a legendary flyer I can think of either. So we're just going to get clocked by this. What is our solution to this predicament we find ourselves in? I think step 1 is attacking with the Thalia. Is it worth trading our Dryad Arbor? I don't think it is. Let's just attack with the Thalia. So we obviously don't win this race. But now we have a choice. Knight of the Reliquary, 2, 3, is going to be a 4 power guy. We don't have anything too exciting that we can find with it. If it's a 4 power guy, we're attacking for 6. They kill us in 3 turns. That can't kill us in 3 turns unless we start sending the Arbor in as well. And if it dies, it doesn't matter. So I think the correct take here is Knight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X is currently 3. I think it's... oh, no, it's the Grist, isn't it? If we go get the Grist, we can just kill the Murktide, sacrificing our Dryad Arbor, and then on the following turn, we can start plussing. Yeah, okay, this is fine. This is why the Grist is in the deck. So where are you, little Grist? Okay. So they're skipping to that because we get to take out their threat and they won't have any lands. Okay, we found it. It took me a little while to remember I had Grist in the deck. But we did get there. Nice. Alright. Quite happy with how I sideboarded here. They're probably going to bring in a little bit more bounce. If they have it. Am I eager for some sort of Plague Engineer here? Like, the only thing Plague Engineers can realistically replace is the combo. And you know me, I'm probably not going to remove the combo now, am I? The Thalias didn't feel amazing when I'm trying to cast these. I can certainly see why some of the lists are a little bit shy on the old Thalias. I think we just resubmit. This is our opening hand. We have basic land into Mother of Runes. And then we can follow up with a couple of swords for guys. And we have a Green Sun Zenith to get an endurance with later on. So I think we keep this one. The hope here is that our opponent doesn't have a turn 1 threat and they have a turn 1 ponder. They have a turn 1 threat. So we can't realistically Swords to Plowshares this. We could try and play the Wasteland game, but that's always incredibly dodgy to do against Delver. So I think we try and play out the Mother of Runes. And if they daze this, then next turn we can Swords to Plowshares. Okay. Well, the aim of the game here is to try and keep a Murktide off the table until we can get Endurance in play. That is how we win this game. If our opponent misses a land drop at any point, we jump in on the Wasteland strategy. But it's very hard for them to miss land drops when they have Dragon's Rage Channeler in play. That's why I didn't think it was good Wasteland, especially since they're ahead on board, which means that they're just going to be clocking us in the near future if we do that. These Wastelands are going to be useful at some point, but it shouldn't be what our strategy is right now. Our strategy should be to keep the board under wraps in terms of creatures and just work our way to the Green Sun Zenith so we can deploy the Endurance to take out their graveyard. Misty Rainforest. So they can just get one of the cards off the ponder, which they didn't shuffle. Lightning Bolt on our Mother of Runes. Sure. Because we have 2 Swords to Plowshares, I'm happier to plow this than I normally would be. Because we already have the follow-up for the Murktide when that comes down. Yep, so this creature has let them see an additional 2 cards and is attacking for 3. Don't think this card should be legal, personally. I think we play out the Wasteland here because we want to sandbag our green source in case we get Wastelanded. I think we plow this now. So this can play into a Force of Negation if they brought it in, but bringing that in against Maverick seems really weird to me. It does mean that Force of will cost them 2 cards, and they can't daze because we have the Wasteland up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they can play a Murktide Regent, but we can Swords to Plowshares a Murktide Regent. But hopefully they don't, and we can deploy an Endurance. Okay, they have a Murktide Regent. They have not played a second land. So, this means our plan has become Swords to Plowshares this guy, and then Wasteland both their lands if this resolves. If this doesn't resolve, we can't Wasteland them. They have a Force of Will. So we cannot Wasteland them here because we need to get up to enough mana so that this can go and get us a Grist, which is unfortunate. So we probably lose to this because 2 mana 5/5 flyers are too good. Alright, so they finished the Express Federation. They've got another land off of it. So we could have Wastelanded them off so they couldn't cast that, but then we aren't casting any spells. Putting ourselves down to 1 land when our opponent has a 5/5 flyer in play is an incredibly silly thing to do. So what we really need is to be able to cast a Grist and have a guy to sack. So this is a 2-step problem. And we don't have a lot of turns to find a solution. Okay, so this does it. This gets us a Dryad Arbor. Next turn we can Green Sun Zenith for Grist and kill this. And we'll take 5 this turn, 6, 7. So we have a route that can get us out of it, but it relies on our opponent not being able to counterspell our Grist. If this flips, it's also problematic for us. Okay, so this isn't going to get pumped up. They're just going to come in for 6. That suggests to me they don't have things in hand apart from creatures and counterspells. The Wasteland here is pretty annoying, but they shouldn't use it. The only issue here is if I Windswept Heath now to get the Dryad Arbor that I need, they can Wasteland it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to... Yeah, we have to play the... We can't play around days because the Wasteland is on board. This is too late. So play this out. Past this where X is 3. And then we get this when they have no chance to Wasteland it for when we sacrifice our guy. Actually, no, they still can they can do it because of the way grist works, I think, right? I put the ability on the stack, and the ability is to sacrifice. It's not an additional cost, so they can still wasteland us if our opponent sees it. Obviously, this has to resolve first anyway. Okay, so this did resolve. So we get the grist. So our way of winning this game is our opponent making a mistake now. Okay, they have the lightning bolt for the grist. We are just dead here. Sure. Deck that needs banning, still needs banning. Alright, let's go into another round. Right, so keeping this hand. Mother into Stoneforge with a little bit of interaction. So this seems fine to me. Our opponent is representing what could be Delver. But I think we play out the Mother and see what happens. Okay. So I could just kill this end of turn. Nope, alright. So it's their upkeep here. Quite a lot of decks play Scalding Tarn. A Lotus Petal. Okay, so this is looking more like Sneak and Show, and they do have a big MAVER-RICK-ROLL avatar, so they might just cast Sneak Attack here. Not Sneak Attack, Show and Tell. They are casting Show and Tell. So we put in Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, it's the Grizzlebrand, which is one we can actually attempt to kill. But they're going to gain a bunch of cards off of this. And we'll go and get ourselves a Cauldra. We can put in an uncounterable Cauldra and attack with it. So we have two choices here. We can slam the Cauldra in and bash, because they can't block with Grizzlebrand. And that'll take them to 7 life exactly. So if I Source to Plowshares this, it can just get countered. Oh, this is not great for us. They already know we're playing green, so I think the correct play here is to put in the Cauldra, because the Cauldra beats Grizzlebrand in combat. Hopefully they don't know that and they just put their Grizzlebrand in front of it. But I suspect they will not. So this will impact the amount of cards they can draw, and it might be hard for them to remove. Now the issue is they can just sneak attack in an Emrakul. But if we hit this with the Source to Plowshares, they draw 7 cards immediately. Whereas this way, they have to attack us if they want to draw 7 cards. And if those 7 cards aren't good enough, then we are alright. Yeah, so if they want 7 cards, they've got to turn their guy sideways and not have a blocker here. Which means you can force through 6 damage. Okay, so there's the 7 cards. Go ahead, draw 7 more, please. You still have 7 life. Alright, so Lotus Petal, City of Traitors, another Show and Tell. So what we do here is we put in the Collector Roof, and it shuts off the Lotus Petal. Omniscience. Okay, this is probably going to go very badly for us. I don't know why you don't play that pre-combat, because they had to draw the 7 cards. They probably just drew that. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Because if they had this pre-combat, you would just play it and then maybe have a chance of drawing a sneak attack and just killing us straight up. Like, we are odds on to lose this game. We have 8 attacking power here. Okay, so they get an additional turn. They make us sacrifice all the permanents and we lose. Sure. I suspect this matchup is terrible. So what do we get for this? We get Choke, Force of Vigor, blow up a sneak attack. Plague Agent is not going to do anything. Opposition Agent not going to do anything. Prismatic Ending is objectively bad here. Lane on the Void doesn't do anything. Like, Opposition Agent, what is this actually able to do? It shuts off fetch lands. It can shut off Intuition, but not all of these decks play Intuition. If they do, they tend to only play 1. Deafening Silence can stop them having a really fast turn. Excuse me, it can stop them having a really fast turn, but it only works briefly. It slightly delays things. It does stop some of the really, really gross turns, though. Umezawa's Jitte is not going to do anything here. I like the combo here. This hits artifacts, doesn't it? Type creature or planeswalker. Okay, yeah. So this can kill an Emrakul that's Show and Telled in. So I don't hate that. The Source to Plowshares can kill Grizzlebrand, but they can't kill an Emrakul. The Endurances here, I don't think are going to be that good, which gives us a Deafening Silence. The Leovold is going to be great. The Knight of the Reliquary is probably going to be our biggest threat that we can deploy outside of the Cauldron, so I think I like keeping that. The Thalia seems good here. Can we fit in any more Deafening Silence? And if so, how? I guess we can maybe shave a Swords to Plowshares. I don't think we can realistically play any more of these. I want to keep the combo because that gives us a way of just winning the game, which I think is going to be possibly key to this matchup. Just having an I win button. Because I suspect this deck is just bad against like fast combo decks. Because we're playing a fair game here. So we have a Choke, we have a Mother of Runes, we have a Noble Hierarch. We keep this hand, but what order do we deploy our threats? Like, is turn 1 Mother into turn 2 Stoneforge going to be good enough to do anything here? We also have to worry about Blood Moon, which is a thing they can cast as early as turn 1. So I think we play out the Noble Hierarch here for the purposes of getting around Blood Moon. In terms of removal, they have some amount of Pyroclasm effects and Fury. It's the main things we're looking out for here. I don't think we beat Fury unless we get the Cauldron in play first. Or the Mother of Runes in play, I guess, can help a little bit, but it can only protect one thing. Okay. So this could be a Blood Moon. Fade with Mirror Breaker. Okay, that's a little bit less scary. So we have the Force of Vigors for this as well. Obviously you need to draw them. The Choke's not looking amazing right now. Alright, Swords to Plowshares. And we have the Mother of Runes. We can... I think we have to Wasteland this turn. Just to try and shut down this. We have a choice of whether or not we kill this to stop them gaining mana with it. Or we just deploy the Stoneforge, which is our quickest threat. I think we probably just do that, right? We need to try and pressure our opponent and win the game. We can't just sit back because eventually they will assemble enough things to kill us with. They have quite a lot of inevitability because eventually they're going to draw one of their combo pieces and eventually we're going to die. And it doesn't really matter what we're doing at the time. If they put an Emrakul into play, we're just going to lose the game. So I think we need to get pressure going. Our opponent did not discard any cards with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That is terrifying. I just wastelanded their only land and they didn't discard anything to Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Yikes. The Choke's looking worse in the face of these. But we have Collector Reef to shut them off. So that would be ideally what I'd like to find here would be a Green Suns or a Collector Reef. And then we can shut off this mana and then we can try and leverage the Choke. But they already have enough mana here. It's not worth me Swords to Plowsharesing the Goblin Shaman token right now. This is okay. I think what we should be doing here is I'll use this one. White and 1. We should be putting this Cauldron to play, attacking for 6 with it. So we can either hold up the Swords to Plowshares here, or we can hold up, or we can play a Mother of Runes. This comes in for 6. Don't think this applying mana is good. I think we're just going to hold up the Swords to Plowshares, because then we can try and kill a Griselbrand in response to them drawing 7. If that's a Griselbrand that they have. So now I have a reflection of Kiki Jiki. So if they attack for 4 here, if they attack with this, then they can deploy a sneak attack. So the fact they didn't play a land first, I might be getting baited here. But we're going to kill this now before they get a token off of it. Like if they have a show and tell, they have it already, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. So what would I put in here? Put the Choke or the Thalia? Probably the Choke. Archon of Cruelty. Sure. This is a pretty big one. We have to discard a card. We discard the Mother of Runes here. This combo is pretty gross. Not a fan. So we can play both of these out, can't we? Oh. Yes, we cast the Thalia here. And then we cast this. And then we attack with this. And we're going to sacrifice 2 creatures and they're going to gain 6 life. If they have a mana source. So we need our opponent to brick on mana source for us to win this game. Let's see how we do. They had a Simon Spirit Guide. Sure. So I have to sacrifice creature. We'll sacrifice the tapped Noble Hierarch. And then we're going to get attacked for lethal damage here. Concede the game. Yeah, this matchup feels abysmal. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, we're just playing sort of fairish guys here. And what they're doing is just far more busted. I'm not really sure. I often find with when I play sort of decks like this, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. They went like turn 1 Fable. You know, which is better than most of the stuff that we get to do, really. Alright, so we're 0-2 with this, so we're not Maverick-rolling anyone just yet, but the night is young, let's keep going. Alright, so this is our opening hand for this round, and we are on the draw here. This feels like quite a weak one here. Like, we have a removal spell on 1 into Stoneforge, and we can mess with their lands a little bit, so that's something. But I'm not really convinced by this. I think we can do better. Alright. This one fills me with a little bit of joy. I think we should put back the Chain of Smog here. So we can go Mother of Runes, Source Plowshares, Leovold. And if Leovold sticks, that's going to be quite good. It's going to be... Is it just blue-red decks for today, is it? National Blue-Red Deck Day. We have a Plains. We can't get the Plains because we can't cast an Emissary of Trest off of the Plains. So I think we play out the Savannah here. So we can play out the Mother. Our opponent did mulligan to 5 cards though. So we have a fighting chance if it's Delver at that point, I think. Basic Island. That makes me less think it's going to be Delver. I don't think you can afford to get a Basic Island here if you're Delver. A Plains, okay. So I'm thinking Jeskai. I'm thinking, okay, this feels a bit Jeskai. Could be Shark still. There's a few options here. So this turn, I think we play out our Windswept Heath and say go. So we need a Bayou and a Trop to cast our Leovold. Our opponent's tapping out for Timeless Dragon is nice. And this is probably going to cast a cantrip, maybe? Okay. So I do not think my opponent is running Daze. Do I think my opponent would counterspell... If they have a Force of Will, do I think they would counterspell Stoneforge Mystic? Yes, I do. Would they counterspell Leovold? Yes, they would. Now, which one of these do I want to resolve more? In the face of this big guy, I think I'm better off resolving the Leovold here. Putting the Leovold into play and then resolving the... we could get a Scrubland here because we've got a lot of white sources here. I'll give us the black. That's better than a Bayou right now. Yeah, so if the Stoneforge Mystic is the thing that sticks after the first volley, then this can actually beat a Timeless Dragon, whereas this on its own will not. Okay, so we need green, black, blue. We'll cast Leovold. So this is going to get 2 for 1. So either going to be Force of Will, or they'll try and remove it. Or they'll just play their Timeless Dragon and try and ignore it. We do have the Source of Plowshares for Timeless Dragon if necessary. This shutting down all their cantrips is going to be pretty potent. So they can shuffle away 1 card from the Brainstorm they just did, if they want to. And then play out the Timeless Dragon and try and race me that way. The fact they've got 2 Tundras is interesting to me. Okay, just a Narset. Interesting. So we can swing at this, and then they can Source of Plowshares our guy. That's very sad. We don't get to draw a card off of this. Not ideal. We play out the Wasteland now, or do we attack first? There's no way that we can stop the Narset here if they have the Source of Plowshares. I have to assume they have the Source Splasher. So they've left up the one white. They left the Narset naked. Oh, wow. Okay, that's huge game. That is substantial. I think we wait until their upkeep and... Oh, I was going to say wait until their upkeep and cast his Endurance. So I have a Narset here. Another one. This can also find a plow. Let's see what they find. Force of Will. Okay. So this Endurance is going to eat a Force of Will, I think. If we can get rid of this Eternal Dragon. Oh, wow. You can have... Get rid of this Timeless Dragon. There's no point firing off his wasteland just yet. A Birds of Paradise. So... This at them. This at Narset. That way, if they want to save Narset, they have to kill the Endurance, which is the one I care least about. Sure. I don't get the card here, though. And then in the main phase, we are going to play out the Stoneforge. White, green, Stoneforge. This is going to get Cauldra. Or it can get a 2-for-1 off the Force of Will in their hand. Shark Typhoon. Okay, so this is Shark still. Does that change how I play the rest of this game? I think we play out the Jitte now. Because our opponent definitely can't counterspell this. So if they kill this on their turn, then I do get to draw a card. Well, this Narset's pretty good. Supreme Verdict, that's pretty bad. Yep. I guess we are equipping this. And is there any point of playing this Birds of Paradise out right now? What does this actually achieve? I don't think holding up the Source Splasher is going to make much of a difference here. I think it's going to be better off just playing this Birds of Paradise, and then we are going to find it easier to Green Sun Zenith if we draw it. And we can possibly move the Jitte around if we draw a different creature. Teferi Time Raveler. Return target artifact, creature, enchantment. Okay, so it can bounce my Dryad Arbor if it wants to. Yep. And Birds of Paradise has no power. If this was Noble Hierarch, I could kill the Teferi. It is not Noble Hierarch. This game feels like it's getting towards being over now. Caracas. That do anything for us? I don't think so. Let's cut this again. White. And this. I don't think there's any point playing the Caracas out just yet. It might be better as like a thing to save. If we draw like a Thalia or something, they might let it through thinking they can remove it. Then I can play a Caracas and blank their removal. Or at least turn their removal into just a bounce spell. I think it might be better just to hold this Caracas. So our opponent... So I can Wasteland here, but I don't think it's worth doing. I'd rather save it for the Hall of Heliod that's in their deck that lets them recur Shark Typhoon. Or if they are on the Urza Saga build, I'd rather save it to kill an Urza Saga. I don't think it's worth hitting a Tundra. Now, if they just play another land and hardcast a Shark Typhoon, then sure, I guess. But I think the higher value play is to hold it for a land that does more than just tap for colours. Opponent finish resolving their Brainstorm. They've got a fetch land to go with it. So they can have a perfect Brainstorm, as we like to call them. So they can make a shark here, and we can Source Plowshare as the shark. Ramunap Excavator. That does change the texture of this wasteland. Okay, they are cracking this in my draw step. A Vendilion Clique? That seems unusual. Day's Undoing. That seems less unusual. So we're going to lose our hand and lose our turn. Sure. Feels like the things that this Maverick deck is doing is just less powerful than what every other deck gets to do. I could be wrong, but I'm not used to playing like these sorts of like green little mitty creature decks. Like I played the Fiend Artisan sort of, they call it elves, but it's not elves, but the Fiend Artisan deck recently, and again I just felt like that deck was very unpowerful unless I cast an early natural order. Okay, so this game is pretty over. Okay, they're just plussing. Well, let's not waste our time. Let's just concede this one. Okay, so how do we beat them? I think a choke is going to be a useful card. Opposition agent has text. I like a combo. Collector Roof seems unlikely to do a great deal here. So they might. The only thing Collector Roof might do is if they have the what's that card called? Currency Converter. The Umezawa's Jitte looks very bad here, so that's definitely a cut. We don't need all of these removal spells. Prismatic Ending will kill a Shark Typhoon or a Planeswalker. These sorts of plowshares will not. Well, they can kill a Shark Typhoon, but I think we brought out those 5 and we've still, brought in something else here. Jeez. It's slim pickings. Maybe we keep another one of these in just for killing sharks. Land on the Void only deals with the Eternalized Dragon for the most part. Deafening Silence here is fine. It stops them pondering into a sorcery speed answer, but that's about it. Force of Vigor can have text, but these have similar text but also attack, and I need to have creatures that attack in this matchup. So I think we just submit like this. So we add 2 choke, 2 opposition agent, -1 Jitte, -3 swords. I think that's about the best we're going to get, so we'll submit. So we have sideboard cards. We have Mother of Runes, which is very good against these decks. I think we'll keep this. So this has to go and get us a green source. So I think we're just going to play the Scrubland out like this. Our opponents are going to be casting a Blood Moon in the first turn of the game, so there is that. I don't want to have to use this Endurance for anything. If I can avoid it. Okay, so our Mother of Runes is online now. I think his decks can play a Wasteland. It's unlikely. But if I go and get a Savannah here, I'm exposing myself a little bit. I think we're already exposed enough. Just want to cast this Noble Hierarch and get a bit more mana on the board so we can deploy our threats. So hopefully our opposition agent will do something here. I'm going to say go, and we can either opposition agent or endurance here. So we'll see what our opponent does. They might crack their fetch here to go for a plane cycling, a brainstorm. So our plan here is to opposition agent in response to the cracked fetch. And if they don't do that, we can cast our endurance. I will put another land in my deck. I don't want to shuffle their brainstorm for them. I want them to have to use their fetches. So now we get to attack for 4. Now we try and get them. Cool, we got 2 form with our opposition agent. They are casting a Force of Will here. They pitched a Shark Typhoon. Sure. They can untap into Sudden Supreme Verdict here. And I think that will probably cause us a great deal of problems. Okay, so they're not doing that. A mountain. This could be a Blood Moon. Kozilek's Return. I'd like to give it self-protection from red. This is not red, unfortunately, it's devoid. So this will die. Pretty good. Does feel like the answers other decks have to what we're doing are just very good, really. Sort of teach me for playing a fair deck. So the choices I had here, I didn't mention, is I could have gone to get a Noble Hierarch first to try and pump this, but I think I want to play out just the Birds of Paradise and the Mother of Runes. And then we've got a very similar board state to what we had before they cast their sweeper. Our choke is looking very poor against their board as well here because they just fetch basics. It's a smart thing to do. Okay, they had the follow-up Supreme Verdict. So they had Kozilek's Return into Supreme Verdict. Not sure what we can really do about that. They run down to 3 cards though. So if we don't want to get the drop because we're going to cast a choke. So I think we get the Bayou here. That gives us black, which isn't really a colour we need. We could always just get a basic forest in case they do have some sort of shenanigans. Or we get another Savannah because that's our most important colours. Then we get the Savannah here. Just cast this choke. This will, if this resolves, it'll cut them off of 2 of their. It will lead them down to 2 lands. So that's going to be relatively okay for us. Let's cut them off of their main colour. Although in this matchup, you could certainly argue their main colour is the white because that's their removal colour. So we can Green Sun Zenith for a 3-drop here. Or we can just cast the Outland Liberator, which on its backside is a 3/3. How many lands have we got in the graveyard? 1 land. This will be the 2nd land. Get the Bayou here. So we can go and get the Leovold, or we can go and get the Grist. Now the Grist is something that's going to be more difficult for them to deal with, I think. X is 3. Let's try this. This has to resolve first. They do have 4 cards in hand. Okay, it resolved. So I don't really want to shuffle these into their deck. The Ramanak Excavator, we don't really have anything to go with it. So I think by process of elimination, it's either the Knight of the Reliquary, the Grist, or the Leovold. Now I think the Grist is going to be the harder thing for them to deal with because they're going to need to have a 3rd colour, which is a thing that won't tap down, which won't untap under choke. So I'm going to go and get this Grist, and then I'm just going to make some creatures. This makes follow-up Knight of the Reliquaries better. If I draw another Green Sun Zenith, I can go and get the Knight of the Reliquary because I'm going to keep putting lands into my graveyard here. There are 7 creature cards in my graveyard, so this might actually be able to pop and win us the game if we're lucky. And let's mill this first. Green Sun Zenith wasn't one I really wanted to mill there. But next turn, we can kill our opponent with Grist without using the stack for spells. And I think we play this out because I don't think we're in danger of getting hit by a sweeper now. Right, I have 7 creature cards in our library. Our opponent is on 8. There are Swords to Plowshares in this guy. That's fine. So we attack them with this and then we can Grist them. Okay, so we got a win off of the Grist there. Now, what does our sideboarding look like? I'm quite happy with how things panned out. I'm not a big fan of having this Swords to Plowshares in the deck, but I don't think I can realistically play anything else. The only thing I could play maybe is a Plague Engineer because it's a threat. That might be slightly better than a Plow. Like, we definitely didn't see any Mentors, and I don't think they were playing Mentor with the thing. So maybe we brought in this just because it's a creature that has power and toughness. I think that's probably fine. I don't think our opponent's deck is a Hull Breacher deck. I think it's a Days Undoing deck with an, it's got a Narset in it. I don't think it's a Hull Breacher deck. I think we would have seen a Hull Breacher by now. 1 drop into 3 drop. I'll keep this. This kind of needs to be a Bayou, I think, just so we can cast our Opposition Agent. So let's play a Birds of Paradise. Our opponent's sacrificing their Scalding Tarn to get an island and cast a Brainstorm, which means they probably have a fetch. Or at least they're digging for one. Okay, there's the fetch. Okay, so we have the Witherbloom Apprentice. That's nice. We can play out the planes here and say go, and then we can either cast an Endurance or we can get cheeky with the Opposition Agent. Do we get to cast Stone Rain Man? Doesn't look like we do, so instead we're going to cast this. Green, green, and 1. They might just be cracking this because they know that I can't cast an opposition agent. Do I want them to have 2 lands in their deck to draw and a brainstorm? I don't think we do. I think we just carry on like this. So our wastelands are basically completely useless here. I think we play out the Dryad Arm. I don't like it though. Yeah, we are pretty exposed to Supreme Verdict, but what we can do is we can float the mana and then play the opposition agent in response. Black, black. Oh, yeah, black, black, white. There you go. So this is going to kill all our things. This also means that our Knight is going to be bigger as well. So we go to attacks. And then I think we play out a wasteland here. Cast this green, white, and 1. So this is going to be a 4/4, so it will dodge the Kozilek's return. Now if they have a second Supreme Verdict, that's pretty bad for us. But hopefully they don't. This could just be a Kozilek's return just to kill the opposition agent, which is fine. Not ideal, obviously, but fine. It's a Teferi. So this is probably just going to bounce our Knight of the Reliquary here. Yeah, so we finish off the Teferi here, so we don't get time warped with Dave's Undoing at some point. Oh, they bounce the opposition agent, so they're really into getting the fetch land off here. Okay, many basics. These wastelands look very bad. Verdant Catacombs. Seems a waste to put this into the Teferi, but I think we still have to do that. I think we play this up first, then we just attack. So they wait for me to declare attack, so they're going to kill it, because then I don't get an activation off. Because if they try to kill it, I can activate in response if it's not tapped. So I'm expecting this to get hit. It might not do. Okay, it didn't. Interesting. I'm less convinced I want to wasteland this now, but I do have another spare wasteland in case they have a land with additional text on it. So I think that's fine. I don't want to play out the Witherbloom until I have the combo in hand. Be nice to win a game with the combo, but we can but try. So if we crack our fetch, our opponent will crack their fetch. But it depends what our opponent does here. Depends on if we need to play the opposition agent right now. Okay, we don't need to. Sure. What we can do is we can play this one out here. We can go to attacks with our Knight. Source Plowshares. Do I want to draw additional... Do I want to gain an additional life here? I don't think so. I don't think it makes a difference here. We just hold up those catacombs. Just in case our opponent is playing some sort of Blood Moon type effect. So we can crack this one. And this will get us a Savannah. So if we flash this guy in, they're just going to get a... They're just going to use their fetch. But if we don't flash this guy in, we're not applying pressure. So have your fetch. Sure. If they get a non-basic, then we get to wasteland it, potentially. I haven't seen any of the things so far in these 3 games of like the Hall of Heliod or the as a saga type cards. So okay, they just got basic anyway. So. I don't know if I want to crack this for a trop yet or not. In case I draw the Leovold, so I'm just gonna cut this. So they can make a shark that is a 3/3, which would trade with our opposition agent. But if we don't attack our opponent, we cannot win this game. Is it worth playing this guy out? I think it is. It's a hard cast Force of Will. Snapcaster Mage. Okay, they're just going to source to Plowshares by the looks of things. Okay. Weird that you would do that before I've searched. Because this just means I'm definitely not going to go and get the... Okay, they're doing it to kill the opposition. That's interesting to me. And then they're going to dress down, so this doesn't do anything. I see. Okay, there was some reasons for the way they operated that turn. That makes sense to me. Okay. It all became clear. So we don't have any targets for Wasteland yet, and we'd rather keep the Caracas as a surprise in case we draw the Thalia or the Leovold. Okay. Anasa, what are you going to have for us? A Source to Plowshares. Okay, so we can't combo. Oh, they're just straight up Source to Plowshares, isn't that? Wow. That seems very eager to me. Chain of Smog. So we have the combo in hand. Do we think our opponent has a removal spell for 1 red mana? I don't think they do. I'm going to crack this. So we need another black source. So this has to be a Bayou or a Scrubland. Our opponent hasn't shown us any Force of Will this game. They might have bored out with their Force of Wills. They did have Force of Will in the previous game though, I think. So I think we... black, green. If this goes wrong, we only lose a wasteland that's not doing anything. If it goes right, we win the game. So, pretty high ceiling, fine floor, really. Okay, they have a Force of Will. Interesting that they wouldn't just let me discard my hand first. I can make our opponent discard their hand here, but that doesn't seem great. What do they exile to this? A Narset. Okay, so we need to draw a Green Sun Zenith or another Witherbloom Apprentice. That wins us the game, in theory. Depends what our opponent finds off this Narset and what they have in hand. The Wandering Emperor. That's going to be a relatively quick clock for us to deal with. But it's not a blue card, which could be relevant for Force of Will purposes. A Green Sun Zenith. That was one of the cards we were hoping to draw, I guess. So we go green, 1, 2, cast this. I suspect if this resolves, then our combo is good. Because you would force the thing if you could. Like, they could have removal though. This is your window. Excellent. I didn't have any cards in hand, so you'd imagine they would. Oh, excellent. Okay, we managed to get the combo there. Get Maverick-Rolled. Excellent. We did get a win off of it. I'm happy about that. Alright. Our opponent basically completely nullified the Maverick side of our deck. Like, they just smashed through everything. But eventually they ran out of resources and we managed to get them with the combo. Which, you know, if this was just like a creature, like, I don't know, Endurance or whatever, or Thalia, we can't win this game. But the fact I had a combo finish in meant that I could. Alright, on to round 4, I think. Okay, we are on the draw for this one. We have our combo in hand. We don't have the mana to cast it, though. Is this a good hand? We have this creature, which we need an additional land to cast. Other than that, our hand doesn't do anything. I think we have to mulligan this, right? This hand is very awkward. But I think we can still keep this, right? We lead out on Dryad Arbor. Next turn, we play Windswept Heath. And we Green Suns for a little guy. Only having one Dryad Arbor. So we can throw the Dryad Arbor back. So we can Green Suns on turn 1. But then we are behind on the actual total number of lands. So I think we keep this and throw back the Cauldron. Let it be known that this hand feels very poor to me. But it feels keepable. But barely. If this Dryad Arbor was a forest, I'd be quite happy with this hand. But we have to lead out with the Dryad Arbor, which is a real sign of weakness. Our opponent can just prey upon and cast a burn spell on our Dryad Arbor and make me very sad. An island. Our Dryad Arbor gets to live. A Preordain. This means our opponent's playing a combo deck. Preordain doesn't see play outside of combo decks as a general rule. Now, what combo deck it is, I don't know. Straight up basic island with no fetch makes me think possibly High Tide. But we will see. So us having a way of combating that might be quite useful. So what is the plan for this turn? I think we want to use our Green Sun Zenith to get a Leovold, perhaps. So it means we can't use it to get a 1-drop this turn. Is that right? If we're assuming our opponent's a combo deck, our Green Sun Zenith has to get something better than a bird. So I think we... I don't like playing this guy out and revealing it. But I think this might make our opponent scared and make a mistake and combo and try and combo off when they can't. So this might be... This is certainly going to give them something to think about. Again, I don't know what combo our opponent is on necessarily. I'm assuming it's a combo deck that wants to draw cards. So it has a basic island in it, which means it can't be the Epic Storm. And it's not the Epic Gamble. So is it a combo deck that Endurance is going to be good against? I don't know. I think we attack for 2 here. And then play the Endurance. Like, we could go and get a combo piece here, but we don't know if it's the right combo piece. But I think if we get a Leovold, that means that it's going to be hard for them to like draw lots of cards, which is the scariest thing most combo decks do. And also shut down their cantrips. Ancient Tomb. So this could be... Okay, so it's show and tell. So how do we deal with show and tell? We play Grist out, right? And this lets us kill whatever they put in. So we're kind of hoping our opponent plays an Emrakul here. Oh, it's an Omniscience. Okay, so we're dead. Okay, no, we might not be. They're just casting a second Omniscience. Drawn from Dreams. Now this feels like our opponent should probably be able to finish us off here. Again, another matchup that feels horrible. Well, it's the same matchup we played earlier. They might not be red-blue. It seems likely with a Scalding Tarn, but it's still entirely possible that our opponent is like the green-blue version with Eureka. But I suspect it probably is just a... It could be like the mono-blue Omnitel deck. Judging by the amount of cantrips and then drawn from Dreams. Emrakul, the Eon's Torn. Us not getting another turn here is a bit of an issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we will die. We will lose all our permanents. It's not worth playing the game out. Okay, so I think this might be mono blue Omnitel, which is a slightly different beast. So I think we want these Force of Vigors. This opposition agent will probably be useful. They're much more likely to have something like Intuition. The Deafening Silence is going to be better in this if they're like just trying to do Omnitel stuff. I don't think Prismatic Ending is going to hit anything. So that gives us 2 cards to try and trim here. Umezawa's Jitte is going to be very bad here. Collector Roof could be okay here if they're going to be playing any sort of Lotus Petals. Outland Liberator can actually just get rid of the thing we're worried about. Ramunap Excavator is probably going to take too long to be useful, and they're going to have lots of basic islands. So I think Ramunap Excavator is the one with the least amount of relevant text for what we're doing here. So we'll submit like this and we'll hope for the best, but I'm suspecting this round is going to be a loss. Okay, we can keep this. Our opponent could be playing back to basics, or they might be having red for Blood Moon. So we're going to get a basic forest off of this first, because this provides our other 2 colours. And we do have the Force of Vigor if they put an Omniscience into play. And we might be able to opposition agent them out of a fetch land next turn. Preordain. I think we play this guy out now. Has to be a Force of Will. I don't think this deck runs days. I might be mistaken, but it might have days. Okay, so we got the Force of Will. Swan Song. Enchantment, instant, or sorcery, right? Yeah, okay. Then I get a swan out of it. But instead we get nothing. What next? A Misty Rainforest. A Brainstorm. So this is going to be a nice Brainstorm fetch. My wastelands in this league have been atrocious. If these were... Like if I had an Urza Saga package in this deck instead of wastelands, like that would always be good. I guess against Blood Moon is bad, but... Okay, so I think we can play this around. Our opponent can cast Show and Tell just with a basic land now, so I don't think there's any point trying to play this Collector Roof. We're not going to attack with the Noble Hierarch because if they Show and Tell and we put in Outland Liberator, we can use it to blow up the Omniscience. And this gives us an uncounterable way of blowing it up. 4 mana. Drawn from Dreams. Sure. Dig Through Time, but not quite. But also, you can cast it when you've got no graveyard, I'd say. Pretty good one. Okay, now this feels like a good one. Let's play this out. So again, I want to keep up this mana. There's a thing here. Have I got any interesting lands here? Horizon Canopy, Caracas, and more Wastelands. So I think we wasteland and then attack with the Knight of the Reliquary. This is 5, so it's a 3-turn clock. And if our opponent casts Omniscience, casts Show and Tell, they can't actually put anything in from it before I get to blow it out with my Outland Liberator. So I think we're actually in an okay spot here. Weirdly. Cunning Wish. Okay, so what is this going to find? An Intuition that then finds the an Echoing Truth. Okay, so they're going to have to use this to bounce the Deafening Silence. A Mother of Runes. Does that impact anything? I don't think so. I think we attack with our Knight. 5. And then we can play out a Collector Reef here or a Mother of Runes. The Mother of Runes... So the thing they're probably going to get rid of is the Deafening Silence. I would have to assume here. Rather than just use it to buy them a turn. So I think we just play out the Collector Roof. Or do we keep this as another way of blowing up a thing? Oh, it's tricky. Like, there might be a desperation play on their part to bounce the Knight. So if we play a threat, that'll change things slightly. Now, the issue with this is they can play... Okay, so it's just the Echoing Truth on that guy. Sure. The one drawback I have here is they cast... If they put Omniscience into play, they get priority to cast Emrakul before I get to blow it up. So I was rewarded for playing this guy out this turn. A Force of Vigor. This guy is a lethal threat on its own. Next turn. And the Mother of Runes will be a lethal threat on its own as well. So I can keep the mana up still. I'm just going to play out Mother of Runes here. A Brainstorm. Sure. So we really need our opponent to not have Emrakul, Show and Tell, and Omniscience in hand. I don't think we can win if they do. Because the additional turn they get is going to be too much for us to overcome. We do get to put a creature into play, but that creature has to die. So we lose 6 permanents, which is all of our permanents. Cunning Wish. Okay, so this is the only spell they get to cast this turn. And then our Mother of Runes is going to be online to block whatever they get. So I think we have won this one. And we get a 3rd game out of them. Yeah. Okay, they come to the same conclusion. Any differences to how this game went? The chokes are something I should have had in before. I think choke is going to be good here. I think we want the combo. We want a way to just win the game. I don't think Collector Roof is doing anything. And the Endurance is just a guy. I think that can probably go. But the Mother of Runes isn't going to be doing a lot either. So I think maybe we take the Mother of Runes out. And we have the chokes in. The chokes definitely should have been in the second game. I don't know what happened to my brain there. Alright. Let's submit. I guess the logic for the chokes is that if our opponent puts a thing into play by the time we choke, then it doesn't matter. I guess for longer games, choke becomes a must answer. So I can't keep this hand, so I have to mark. Yeah, this hand has a turn 4 kill. And I have Deafening Silence. So I think we can keep this one. I think we put back the opposition agent here. And we go for Deafening Silence into Stoneforge, which might get a counter spell, which will buy us some more turns. And then we can go on 3 Greens on Zenith, on 4 Chain of Smog. Opponents played a Polluted Delta and cracked it. Presumably we're going to see a Ponder or a Preordain. There is the Preordain. Okay, they left both cards on top. That's worrying. I think we play this one out. We get Savannah. And then we cast ourselves a Deafening Silence. It's got Force of Will pitching the Swan Song. Okay. Unfortunately, our opponent isn't a deck that requires like a glut of resources. They just need the specific A and B parts. A Ponder. They shuffle their library, which is good for us. There wasn't a single card in that 3 that they wanted. That's what that means. Because they could have taken one, then shuffled. They shuffled their library on that one as well. So that's also good for us. So this one wants to get us a bayou. Let me try our Stoneforge out. Gonna get the big one. Our question is, do we try and just go for the combo next turn? Set up for the combo. It is a much quicker clock than playing the out the Cauldron, because the Cauldron will take 3 turns, 1 for 5, then 5, and then 5, and hopefully 2 of those will have Stoneforge attacks in as well. So it's a real question as to whether or not what I do this turn. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand. I think we have to present the quickest clock here. Probably I'm going to get Bayou just in case we need the black source. We can probably get Scrubland. And we've got 2 of each colour. Yeah, cast this. Green, black, white. Let's go and get the guy. This might well get a counter spell though. I think the fastest clock is the one we have to present. And they're going to struggle to keep things off of the board. This means if they show and tell Emrakul in, we might be able to untap and win. We at least have an out there. Whereas if we play the Cauldron there and they put Emrakul in, we just lose. Okay. What have they got for us here? Is it the show and tell? It is the show and tell. We have to hope this is an Emrakul, which is a weird position to be in, isn't it? So we get our Cauldron this way. It's the Omniscience. We could have put the Knight in actually and gone to get the Caracas. That would have been a better play. Obviously, we can't get it immediately. Okay, so there's a Cunning Wish for Eladamri's Call, which tutors for the Final Mind's Foresight. Okay, they're going for the weird little thing where they is this Release the Ants kill? I think it is. Twin Cast. Interesting. So, getting another Cunning Wish. There's the Eladamri's Call. Like, I don't know why they didn't just get that and cast Emrakul, because that does the thing, right? Okay, so they get 2 creatures here. So they're getting Emrakul and a backup Emrakul, just so they can take 2 turns in a row. Yep, I see. Okay, so how many permanents do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is Annihilator 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can lose everything and have the Witherbloom Apprentice still in play, but we have no way of casting this. So I think we are just dead. Sure, our opponent is doing like broken, unfair things like this, and most of our cards are like mana dorks and 3/4s. So we're really not lining up very well with the matchups we're having today. One more round to try and get a little bit of dignity, I suppose. For the final round, we're on the play against a Yorion deck. So we can Green Suns for Dryad Arbor into Knight of the Reliquary and then leverage removal. So if they're like a Death and Taxes deck, we can like snipe through a lot of stuff here. So that'd be quite good. If they are not a Death and Taxes deck, then these 3 cards will be blank. So it's a bit of a... Well, not blank, but they're going to be less than ideal. So we're going to keep this, but keep in mind what I just said. Alright. We have no need for black mana in this hand, so we'll just get a basic forest. Just get ourselves a little bit of ramp. And then next turn we can... So they don't actually know what we are here. We are representing something that could be like elves. So it might make them play different. Okay, so they are not a deck that's going to have a lot of creatures, most likely. Which is problematic. We had like a 50-50 shot, more or less. If this creature does not resolve, I'm in trouble. These decks tend not to run days, but they can have force as well. Okay, it resolved. So this might be eating a Source to Plowshares. Or they could play a black source here and make a Baleful Strix to bash my guy. Okay, we drew another threat though, so that's something. They can have the little snake here, but we're going to attack with both of these creatures. If we have a snake, it won't have Death Touch yet. We have an Endurance that we can flash in, or we can use some removal, depending on what we want. I think we're just on a pretty simple beatdown plan here. So flash in the Endurance. Oh, if they leave this on top, They shuffle the library. Okay, if they left it on top, then I would hit the endurance to stop them being able to do anything with it. Right, let's just cast this. Let's just go full aggro with 3 mana, 3 power guys. I don't really want to draw that land. I don't really want our opponent to draw more ponders. I'll say okay. And they shuffled off their ponder, so I'm not going to get any value from doing that. Okay, what am I more likely to draw here? I've only got 1 white source, but I've got a second green source here. So I'm going to draw a card with this to pump my knight. So if they play the snake here, I can blow it up. So he's going to attack here with everything. Nothing. Nothing. Okay. Well, I've got lethal damage on board here, so not sure what our opponent is drawing to. Okay, it can't be a Supreme Verdict now. Okay, our opponent just didn't do anything. That's very odd. I have to assume it's sort of like just a mid-rangey Yorion pile. So these chokes are going to be good. They might be a Minsk and Boo deck. These opposition agents have text. These Plague Engineers will be useful against Minsk and Boo. Collector Roof doesn't seem like it's going to be that useful here. Outland Liberator is able to hit things like Abundant Growth, I think it's called. The thing that enchants land and makes it tap for any colour. But I don't think that's going to be that impressive here. So these can probably go. Prismatic Ending will hit Planeswalkers. I can actually have enough mana with all my things so I can hit a Minsk and Boo with it. That's fine. I probably don't need as many of these Swords to Plowshares. The Chain of Smog combo they haven't seen, so I think that's probably going to be quite good here. It's a case of whether or not we want these Plague Engineers. If they have the snakes, because we saw snow covered, these will be good against the snakes as well. So it's a case of, are these going to be better than our... Our Ramanamp Excavator is going to be good if we get the Wasteland lock going. I don't think the Jitte is where we want to be here. And if we're boarding these in, I think we can probably just board out the Swords to Plowshares and just have maximum threat density. And this can try and do some of the removing for us, because the things we're scared about are Minsk and Boo and the little snakes maybe. They have... they might have an Uro in their deck, but I don't think that's enough to play Lane on the Void. But then the question becomes, should I be playing Swords to Plowshares to exile the Uro? Which is a very good question. I think realistically I should probably be boarding out this combo maybe, but I do like the combo and I want to try and get some more wins with it. So I think we're going to submit like this. Sounds good. We have turn 2 opposition or endurance or choke. And we can also put our Stoneforge into play if that's something we want to do if our birds doesn't make it to our turn 2. So this hand seems fine to me. Prismatic Vista from our opponent. Drawn both our basics, which is alright here. So we can play out this Birds of Paradise. So we'd like to get a little bit more information about what our opponent is playing with here. Snow-covered forest. It's definitely giving me the impression it's just going to be like a sort of Banty pile. So what do we do here? They haven't seen our black sources. So I think we play out this Plains and we can either play an Endurance or an Opposition Agent depending on how much we can try and get them if they play a fetch land and crack it here. Yep, sure. So this is going to have Death Touch in the near future. Abundant Grace. Nothing I can do about that. A Ponder. So if they leave these on top, then I can okay, they shuffled, so I don't get to Endurance them away. And they just had a basic Plains there. Swords to Plowshares. Okay, in response. Green, green, 1. Let's cast this guy. We don't need to shuffle anything in, I don't think. Like, maybe I should have shuffled this in just to make Uro slightly harder to cast when that comes along. Okay. So this has got Death Touch. So I think we need to deploy the Stoneforge and get ourselves a Cauldron. And we don't really want to waste our 3/4's potential into a 1/1. It's already drawn them a card. We do need to get through this at some point, but Terminus. Don't see that every day. Sure. Wowzers. So if I'd have held up for Opposition Agent here instead of playing Stoneforge, I would have had a better time. But with a 1/1 Death Toucher keeping me at bay, I didn't think that was necessary. Here's the Uro. If we shuffled in these two cards, oh sorry, these three cards, we would have kept it further at bay, so there's definitely an error on my part there. I think we crack this. We do not want to draw Dryad Arbor, so we will get the Dryad Arbor into play. We have our sources here if we need them. Thalia, we can tap down their blue source here. I think we can do that here. This will make Uro more difficult to cast, hopefully. And we get 1 almighty damage in and bring our opponent to 20 life. We are behind in this matchup. Life from the loam. Okay. So they will be able to cast an Uro when the time comes, which is sad. Horizon Canopy. That's probably not the one, is it? I think we play this one out. Brainstorms. So we might be able to catch out their Prismatic Vista here. We don't want to attack into them. We need to keep this up for the Opposition Agent. Terminus. Okay, are you going to cast that? It'll cost you 2 mana though. They should fetch around this though. Buy you here so you have double green for endurances. Yep. Let's cast this now, really. Black, white. They can just pop their Prismatic Vista in response. Wow, I got Force of Will from it. That's exciting. A Blue Blast. Okay, they got Blue Blast in, so they obviously think I'm doing Minsk and Boo type stuff. What does this Green Sun Zenith find us? It finds us Knight of the Reliquary. It finds us an Endurance, which gets rid of the Uro, which is probably the better play here. So I think we do that. 1. X is 3. Yes, please. They got a... They brought in Force of Negation. Okay, Counterspell. That's fine. If they'd have brought in Force of Negation, I'd have been perplexed. Okay. So they can cast an Uro this turn. Because they got 1, 2, 3 mana, and they can get another mana off of another land, perhaps. Okay. This Choke is doing a reasonable amount of work of keeping us alive. We only need 2 more mana and we can hardcast this Cauldron. But our opponent can't make Uro this turn. Because the Snow-Covered Plains does not tap for Uro mana. So we get another chance to try and spin the wheel and stop our opponent from Uroing us into the dirt. Which is very much what happens. So, I think we can either hold up, try and cast this Cauldron, or we can try and make it so we don't die to Uro next turn. Right, green, 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 blue, blue. So I think we have to draw a card to try and get an Endurance. That is not an Endurance, is it? Let's play this out. I suppose we could have played the Windswept Heath and thinned 1 card, but that's a very marginal percentage. And we didn't necessarily know what land we wanted, because if we drew the Leovold, we would have wanted the Trop. And we don't want the Trop otherwise. This could just be a Yori on turn. Okay, so there is the Uro. Right, it's a 3-turn clock anyway, so... Okay, so we have a way of winning this game now. That window is going to be rapidly closing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 more land. So if I hadn't cracked that Horizon Canopy, I could have played a Cauldron Complete by now. But here we are. So say go. We can get a... Did we get a Dryad Arbor? Or did that get... Oh, yeah, we'll get a Dryad Arbor because it got Terminus, right? So we can get a Dryad Arbor if we need to keep ourselves alive for a turn by chomping this Uro. So it gives us another look. This is Abundant Growth. 1, 2, 3. So they can play the Yori on it if they want to. So we don't want to draw a Dried Arbor, and we're going to be getting out of deck at some point, so we take it now. Mother of Runes. This isn't the one. We'll play this out. So if we get another turn, then we can block this indefinitely. But they're going to have a 4/5 flyer. So, yeah. Maybe these just have to go under the bus now, and I have to try and draw the right thing. So this can block, and then next turn the Mother of Runes can protect itself. A prismatic ending on the Mother of Runes. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this a Minsk and Boo? Yeah. I hate this card so much. I think the design of Minsk and Boo is just very poor. It's just a big. It's just a really stupid threat that's very, very one-dimensional and unfair, unfun to play against. Okay, so we have to block now. I tend to beat at Minsk and Boo decks with relative frequency, but just don't like the design of the card. It's fire design for you, though. All right. So, do we draw the thing that wins us the game? Maybe we did. Maybe we did. This is our last chance saloon here. X is 2. Let's go. Let's give it a whirl. Can we Rick-roll our opponent? Oh, yes. We Maverick-roll 2 people. Okay. Excellent. Let's have a look at the deck. So, the 2 rounds we won were off the back of Witherbloom Apprentice and the Chain of Smog combo. We did win a round because of Grist, being able to just pump out a load of guys. And we won a game just by beating down with Endurance and the Knight. But other than that, we didn't do very well. 7. So we went 6-7 in games, which isn't actually that bad. But what I did notice was that the sort of the little guys package here, like maybe I just have the wrong guys. Like if Thalia was Scrib Ranger, that would have been better in one of the rounds. Maybe we could have got there. But and like the Endurance was like one of the best cards in the deck because it was just a nice guy. Leovold was actually really bad. Like the one time, you know, we got him up and running, but our opponent had a Narset, so it didn't do anything. It just meant that they weren't going to kill it on their turn. So I don't think it's worth splashing for the Leovold, if I'm being honest here. So I think you could take out the Tropical Island and slightly fix the mana base. Maybe have another thing to tutor for with a Knight and replace just this with a Knight. I think I would have rather had this be a Knight or an Endurance, would have just been better. Our Silver Bullets didn't really do anything in this matchup, in these matchups we had really, but that's sometimes what happens when you play Magic the Gathering. You have Silver Bullets as one-ofs to go and find. If they're not going to be good, you chuck them out. So that's not really a problem. The Jitte didn't really do a great deal. I think if I had more Thalias, then the Jitte might have been better, because that's First Strike is one of the best things you can have with a Jitte wielder. But if this was Batterskull, I think I would have had a better time, because for some of those games, like Batterskull would have been a threat in and of itself. So I think the Jitte is wrong. I think the Leovold is wrong here. I'm not even convinced the Thalia is right. Like, obviously I understand why it's in the deck and what it's good for, but maybe that's just not where this deck needs to be these days. Again, I'm not a Maverick player. I'm just basing it off of the games that I've played just now and my general legacy play over time. The Wastelands here were bad in this league, but I don't think that's anything to do with Wastelands being bad. It's just sometimes you're going to get matchups where your opponents can fetch out 7 basics, like some sort of slow control deck that can find 7 basics and play around choke quite effectively, and you're just not going to be able to use your Wastelands, and that's sad, but is the nature of things. But it does make me wonder if these were Urza Sagas, and maybe we trimmed some stuff and had an Urza Saga package, then these would have just been much better. And Urza Saga is just one of the best things you can do in legacy at the moment. And if our opponent's bringing a meltdown just for our Urza Saga, that feels pretty good. So maybe Urza Saga would just be a smoother thing we can have. And if we're playing Urza Saga, we might not even need Stoneforge Mystic at that point. Because Urza Saga is that one card that wins the game on its own anyway. A bit like Stoneforge Mystic getting called as that one card, except Stoneforge has got different vulnerabilities. So this is just more vulnerable to single spot removals. So if we cut just do a little bit of mixing around. So if we cut all of this, and maybe even these, and the Wastelands, we flip these into Urza Saga. So we need an Urza Saga package. So we probably want like a Pithing Needle. Let's just have a bit of space over here. So we need like a Pithing Needle, a Shadow Spear, I think would be very good. Like, we don't have a lot of other artifacts though, is the thing. So Urza Saga is not going to be like one of those, oh wow, we're just going to win the game off of this Urza Saga immediately. But I think it is going to be a good enough threat. So you're going to have like a 4/4 lifelink and a 3/3 non-lifelink with it. Again, but then you could end up with matchups where the Wastelands are better. So it's harder to say. But if we're looking at the other things we're thinking about cutting here, soon if we just had this little package of like Pithing Needle, Shadow Spear, we still get all of these slots to play with. So we could have another Endurance, 1, 2, 3 Knights, and then we could have 2 of something else, maybe like Sylvan Library. Since we got a combo in our deck, Sylvan Library might be quite a useful way of digging through. And this deck felt like it was screaming out for some card advantage because it just didn't. It was playing 1 card a turn, which feels very bad in Legacy unless the cards you're playing are prison cards at the moment. Because of Fire Design, if you're playing 1 card a turn, especially when your cards aren't very Fire Designy, let's be honest, you know, Endurance, sure, but like the rest of what we got here isn't what I would call like immediate smashes the board and it requires an answer type thing like you get with Fire Design. So if we're playing these sorts of cards and we're drawing 1 card a turn, we're not really able to challenge what Fire Design cards are doing. You know, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is just like way better than what we're doing a lot of the time, and I think we'll be in a bit of trouble. You know, like Murktide Regent was a massive problem for us because it was just bigger than all of our stuff, and if we had another Endurance, that could help possibly keep it down. But I think this deck in general needs a little bit more streamlining for what I would want to play. Like, again, I'm not the Maverick guy. I don't play these sorts of like Mitty Men decks. I've been beaten by them and beaten them many times in the past. They're just not something that necessarily appeals to me. The combo was good in this deck. It was a nice little sideways juke. And I think if we're cutting the little blue pip here, we can probably accommodate this better by trimming these other things that we were talking about earlier and shoring up the rest of the deck. And the Sylvan Library would really help push away Chain of Smogs that you don't need, or help you find them when you do need them. If we're in black, is there any other interesting things we can find? I'm not sure. But that's my thoughts on it, basically. I don't think these cards are the be-all and end-all of what this deck should be doing. I did like the Grist, though. It's a card that hasn't always impressed me, but today I enjoyed it. This felt like one of the better Green Sun Zenith for Grist decks. Although I've certainly learned I should probably be Green Sunsing for it more than I have been when I've played other decks. Alright, I've talked about the main deck loads, and you're probably bored to tears, but I'm just going to quickly mention the sideboard. All of these things made sense. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it. It's like some of them weren't particularly useful this time, but again, that's the matchup. Same with the Wastelands. Very good card. Doesn't always come up. Seen people playing Ghost Quarter here, so you can strip all your opponent's resources with a Ramlamp Excavator, which is something I'd certainly be down for. Maybe the Wastelands here should be a split of like Saga, Wasteland, Ghost Quarter. Maybe something like that. So then you can get your Ramlamp Excavator. If we're playing more Knights, we can shoot for things. But then if we're playing a land package, it does make me wonder, should we just be going for like more towards the decks that are running like Elvish Reclaimer and using that as an engine so they can do like the broken 2020 just from that one card. That one card that's going to answer the game, that's just going to win the whole game, is the Elvish Reclaimer, which requires an answer. But then you end up moving towards green-white depths rather than like the green sun zenith deck. But maybe that's correct to do that. Maybe you could be like green-white-black depths instead of the green-white-red decks. I don't know. But yeah, that's my thought on that. I hope you enjoyed it today. Sort of me playing something a little bit out of my comfort zone. I thought it was quite an informative experience, even though it wasn't the most fun until I got to MAVER-RICK-ROLL people with Witherbloom Apprentice. So I quite enjoyed that. So yeah, it was ebbing and flowing, really. But I think the amount I've learned here, even though, you know, it was only a 2-3, it was 6-7 in games, which isn't actually the worst. And I quite enjoyed the learning experience, even if some of the play patterns weren't for me. When you play a deck that you haven't played before, but you've played against it, it's really important to like learn how the deck functions and operates and what it does, because you get a completely different set of understandings and workings when you're behind it rather than when you're playing against it. Anyway, I've rambled for quite a long time here on the cleanup, but you know, I had a lot of thoughts, and who am I to not share them with you? All right. That's going to be me done. So one little plug: if you want to subscribe to my channel, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps me out. And if you know anyone else who might be interested in my channel, if you can send it their way, that would be wonderful for me. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching and joining us as we Maverick-rolled people. All right, goodbye.